Forgotten explorers who discovered new lands. Did you know that long before Christopher Columbus sailed the ocean blue, Norse Vikings, led by a man named Leif Erikson, actually landed in North America around 1000 AD? That's almost 500 years earlier. But their incredible journey was mostly forgotten by the wider world for centuries. Imagine a time when the world was much bigger, full of blank spots on maps. Brave people set out into the unknown, facing huge dangers. Many found new lands, but their stories got lost or were simply not told enough. We often hear about famous explorers, but what about the forgotten ones? The ones who truly saw new places first, yet their names are barely whispered today. One such person was Leif Erikson. He was a Viking, a strong sailor from Iceland. His father, Eric the Red, had already found Greenland. Leif heard tales from another sailor, Bjarni Herjolfsson, who had seen land far to the west, but never stopped there. Leif decided to go find it himself. According to sagas, ancient Norse stories, Leif bought Bjarni's ship and gathered a crew of 35 men. They were ready for a great adventure, as detailed in the saga of Eric the Red, a key historical text. Around the year 1000 AD, Leif and his crew sailed west from Greenland. They first found a cold, rocky place full of flat stones. They called it Helgeland, which means slab land. This place is thought to be Baffin Island in modern-day Canada. Then they sailed south and found a flat, wooded land with white sandy beaches. They called it Markland, or Forest Land. This is likely modern-day Labrador. Finally, they found an even better place. It had mild weather, lots of grass, and rivers full of salmon. They even found wild grapes, so they named this new land Vinland, or Wineland. Leif and his crew built houses and stayed there for a whole winter. They were the first known Europeans to live in North America. This amazing discovery is backed up by archaeological finds at L'Anse aux Meadows in Newfoundland, Canada, which show Norse settlements from around that time, confirmed by studies published in journals like Nature. But why did this incredible discovery become forgotten? The Vikings did not stay. They had some run-ins with the native people, whom they called Skrælings. There were fights, and the long journey back and forth was very hard. The Vikings mostly kept their new land a secret among themselves, or their stories did not spread far enough to Europe. So, for nearly 5 centuries, Vinland remained a mystery to most of the world, a forgotten chapter until Columbus's voyages overshadowed it. Let's move to a different part of the world, far from the icy north. Imagine ancient China, a land of powerful emperors and amazing inventions. While Europe was in its dark ages, China was sending huge fleets across the oceans. The most famous of these was led by Admiral Zheng He. Between 1405 and 1433, Zheng He led 7 massive expeditions. His ships, called treasure ships, were much bigger than anything Columbus had. Some were said to be over 400 feet long, with 9 masts. This scale of seafaring was unmatched globally at the time, as documented in historical accounts analyzed by the Maritime Silk Road Society. Zheng He didn't discover entirely new lands in the sense of previously unknown continents. His goal was different. He traveled through the South China Sea, the Indian Ocean, and even reached the east coast of Africa. He visited over 30 countries, including Vietnam, Indonesia, India, Sri Lanka, and Kenya. He showed off China's power and traded goods like silk, porcelain, and spices. He also brought back exotic animals like giraffes to China, amazing the emperor. While Zheng He's voyages were incredibly important for trade and showing China's might, they were largely forgotten outside of China for a long time. Even within China, after the expedition stopped, much of the knowledge and records were destroyed or lost. This was partly due to a change in government policy that wanted to focus on problems within China's borders rather than adventures overseas. The idea of a Great Wall was not just about building a physical wall, but also a mental one, turning inward. This shift is a critical point explored in detailed historical analyses, such as those found in the Journal of Asian Studies. Think about the Pacific Ocean, the largest ocean on Earth. It holds thousands of islands, many of which were found and settled by brave Polynesian voyagers long ago. These people were masters of navigation. They didn't have compasses or modern maps. Instead, They used the stars, the sun, the winds, and the patterns of ocean swells. They built incredible double-hulled canoes, sometimes over 100 feet long, that could carry families, plants, and animals across vast distances. One of the most impressive feats of exploration was the settlement of Easter Island, or Rapa Nui. It's one of the most remote inhabited islands in the world. Imagine sailing thousands of miles from other islands, across a huge, empty ocean, to find this tiny speck of land. Historians believe Polynesians reached Easter Island around 1200 AD. They brought their culture, their language, and the plants and animals needed to start a new life. The giant stone statues, called moai, that they built there are a testament to their incredible skills and deep beliefs. This journey is a marvel of human resilience and navigational genius, often highlighted in anthropological studies like those published by the Polynesian Voyaging Society. But who was the first to find Easter Island? Their names are lost to time. We know they were Polynesians, but the specific individuals who led those first canoes are not remembered in the same way as European explorers. Their stories were passed down orally, through songs and legends, but not written down in a way that survived for all to see. They were pioneers in every sense, discovering and settling vast swathes of the Pacific, from Hawaii to New Zealand, long before any European ships arrived. Let's consider another amazing, yet often overlooked, group of explorers, the Phoenicians. These people were ancient mariners and traders from the land that is now Lebanon. They lived thousands of years ago, around 1500 BC to 300 BC. They were known for their excellent ships and their courage on the sea. The Phoenicians sailed all over the Mediterranean Sea, setting up trading posts and colonies. They were the first people to sail out into the Atlantic Ocean, going beyond the Pillars of Hercules, the Strait of Gibraltar, into the great unknown. According to ancient Greek historian Herodotus, the Phoenicians even circumnavigated Africa. This means they sailed all the way around the entire continent. This journey supposedly happened around 600 BC, ordered by an Egyptian pharaoh named Necho II. The story says it took them 3 years, and they even claimed the sun was on their right side as they sailed south, which would be true if they were sailing around Africa from east to west. This account, though debated, suggests an incredible feat of ancient navigation that predates Vasco da Gama by over 2,000 years. The Journal of Nautical Archaeology often features discussions on the plausibility and evidence for such ancient voyages. If this story is true, the Phoenicians were truly forgotten pioneers. They sailed the vast, uncharted waters of the Atlantic and Indian Oceans, discovering new coastlines and lands, centuries before any other known explorers dared to venture so far. Yet, their incredible achievement is often a footnote in history books, overshadowed by later European expeditions. Their focus on trade and establishment of ports meant their discoveries were integrated into their existing network rather than heralded as New World finds. Think about the sheer courage it took for these ancient and medieval explorers. They didn't have GPS, or even accurate maps. They faced storms, hunger, thirst, and the fear of the unknown. They sailed into waters where no one they knew had ever been. Their ships were small compared to the vastness of the ocean. Each journey was a gamble, a true leap of faith into a world that felt limitless. Another often forgotten chapter involves the early Arab navigators. During the Islamic Golden Age, from roughly the 8th to the 13th centuries, Arab scholars and sailors made huge advancements in navigation, cartography, mapmaking, and astronomy. They perfected the astrolabe, a tool used to measure the positions of stars, which helped them determine their location at sea. Their ships, dhows, were well suited for long voyages across the Indian Ocean. Arab traders and explorers traveled extensively along the coasts of East Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, India, Southeast Asia, and even China. They established thriving trade routes and spread knowledge, goods, and culture. While they didn't discover new continents in the same way as the Vikings in North America, they explored vast new regions of the world for their culture and created detailed maps and sailing guides that were far superior to anything available in Europe at the time. Their detailed knowledge of the monsoon winds allowed them to travel efficiently across the Indian Ocean. Scholars at institutions like the King Abdullah University of Science and Technology frequently research and highlight these profound historical contributions to maritime exploration. For example, the Arab explorer Ahmad ibn Majid, who lived in the 15th century, was a legendary navigator whose detailed sailing manuals and charts were incredibly advanced. He was sometimes called the Lion of the Sea. His knowledge of routes, currents, and stars was essential for navigating the Indian Ocean. Some historians even suggest he might have helped Vasco da Gama navigate from East Africa to India, though this is debated. His contributions, though foundational for many maritime routes, are often not widely known outside of specialized historical circles. Why do some explorers become famous, while others are forgotten? Sometimes it's about who wrote the history books. Often, it's the explorers whose discoveries led to lasting colonies, trade routes, or big changes in the world. The Vikings came to Vinland, but they didn't stay. But their story wasn't widely shared. Zheng He's voyages were amazing, but China later turned inward. But his detailed records were not kept alive for the world to see. The Polynesians found thousands of islands, but their oral histories were not as easily spread to other continents. The Phoenicians left little written record of their longest voyages. These forgotten explorers were just as brave, just as skilled, and perhaps even more adventurous than the ones we remember. They pushed the limits of what was known, facing unbelievable challenges with simple tools and incredible courage. Their stories remind us that history is often much richer and more complex than what we commonly learn. There are always more tales hidden in the past, waiting to be rediscovered. Their journeys teach us that exploration isn't just about planting a flag. It's about curiosity, pushing boundaries, and the endless human desire to see what lies beyond the horizon. These forgotten adventurers, whether Vikings, Chinese admirals, Polynesian navigators, or ancient Phoenicians, truly shaped the world in ways we are only now fully beginning to understand. Their courage paved the way for future generations, even if their names were lost to the winds of time. They remind us that there is always more to learn, more to explore, and more forgotten heroes waiting to have their stories told.